may be modernized, how it may leave the analog era and join the digital era. You've seen all that. And we are taking that course, we are taking that course at the law school. You're leading it as students, and this is where the world is going right now. So, when it comes to change, when it comes to adopting digital ways of doing things, when it comes to embracing all these changes, we should have an open mind, and that is what we are doing at law school. I don't want to be so talkative about our school right now today. Ssemakadde. Before I go on the formal address, I would like to introduce him personally. Ssemakadde is actually the colleague. He is a friend. We met at university many years ago, 2 years ago. I don't think you know. Yes, although I was a class ahead, we met. Yes, yeah, actually, we met in my dad's home. From that time, when I had a father who was a political figure, a very active person. I think maybe that's where I inherited most of the activism. Table banning. Yes, but we met actually in my dad's home. He actually reached out to me, and he's also my namesake advisor. We used to share many of these things, and we've been together for a long while. So when he reached out to me with the intention of having this important guest lecture, it's really timely. How we addressed it, we welcomed it with open hands because we think it's a great opportunity for you students. It tickles your fancy. It's supposed to tickle your curiosity, and I think it's something that can contribute very well to your development as students. So I may just have to. The problem we are going to face, or that I would face with Ssemakadde, is that his profile is so huge. I can't be off record. I have to be a bit formal. So you'll excuse me as I refer to some of the things. There are so many, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. These are purposes of introducing, and I'll try to be as succinct as I can. So, Ssemakadde is who you ask yourself, who is Ssemakadde? Why is he here? Ssemakadde is a leading generation lawyer in Uganda. He's the founder and chief executive of Legal Brains Trust, the Kampala-based democracy and human rights watchdog. He has a proven track record of taking on what we call David versus Goliath type of cases or scenarios. You will not find any simple scenario like we are taking over, and he does this on behalf of the most vulnerable victims of abuse of power, including students, workers, activists, journalists, detainees, traders associations. This is the passion that we are seeing. He joined the bar in 2011, having graduated top of his class at the University and also at LDC. In his seventh year at LDC, in his seventh year at the bar, after the bar, having practiced for a while, he was voted by the General Society as the most outstanding advocate in public investigation or public interest clearing. And now, he's actually standing for ULA. Maybe the validation to share some of his practices. He's a long-term general counsel of two important education-related institutions, and that is the Uganda National Students Association, UNSA, and the Forum for Academic Staff in Public University. His expertise and experience in education law, to say the least, is sublime. He has done various work with this association. He is undoubtedly the go-to person, the go-to legal person, advisor on student affairs, labor, and industrial relations, and also academic freedom. He is a good legal person. Formally, Ssemakadde was an assistant former Chief Justice and he was also an assistant to Senior Counsel David Kanga Advocate, where he had the opportunity to a lot of money. Actually, most of us in the legal profession what we refer to as the profession, or what applied to ordinary citizens. During COVID, you know, COVID happened in 2020. Uganda implemented one of the most strict I remember very well, I stayed home all the time, indoors, but somehow, Council Ssemakadde continued with his practice, and he convened an emergency relief fund for lawyers affected by the first lockdown to help soften the health and mental tolls, economic tolls of the COVID situation on his colleagues. The campaign which raised over $10,000, which was, you know, to help his colleagues. Council Ssemakadde is very comfortable in the public eye, you know, and you've seen our university relies a lot on the public, and that's the way to go anyway nowadays. So, but on Twitter, he simply identifies as legal rebel. At least I've seen him as a legal rebel, or Atanava. I don't know what Atanava means. He will explain it later. And he supports public interest actions. He uses actually his Twitter handles to support public interest actions. He's a sought after speaker because of his articulations of matters to do with public interest and human rights and democracy. And the most common thing you'll find from him is the recognition of his role as a public interest lawyer. In 2015, Professor Joseph Oloka Onyango of Makerere University wrote an article entitled Human Rights and Public Interest Litigation in East Africa, A Bad Eyes View. This honorably mentioned Council Ssemakadde alongside Senior Counsel Ladislas Rwakafuzi from Uganda. There was also Issa Shivji and Ringo Tenga from Tanzania. There was also Feroz Noworji and Ongonya from Kenya. He was notably mentioned as one of the leading public interest lawyers who are leading the wave in the movement for change in public interest litigation, or the public litigation movement. So this is something that he is passionate about, and it resonates well with Victoria University's objectives, which are to create a pool of lawyers who can participate in public interest litigation. As you know, we have a big shortfall. Even amongst these concerns about the numbers of people graduating in law school and all that, there's still a serious shortage in the country of at least one lawyer representing almost 40,000 people. So the interest is still, the demand is still there. And Council Ssemakadde is one of the people who are leading this fight, or this quest to have more people carry out public and strategic interest litigation cases. In 2020, I may have to summarize some of the wrongfalls of the things he has achieved, but just for purposes of this lecture, I'll give you some of the samples that you may find anywhere. He stands out as having had relentless representation of in certain cases. You saw there's the case of Dr. Stella Nyanzi, who is an awarding poet, but there was an issue relating to conflict with the law. And Council Ssemakadde led very many of the novel cases which dealt with many of the issues that were being raised. Things like location mapping, forensic evidence in cybercrime. You can look at the case Stella Nyanzi versus Uganda, High Court Criminal Appeal number 79 of 2019. There was an issue of damages in relation to contempt. You can see the case of a statutory order. You look at the case of Stella Nyanzi versus Makerere University. That's High Court Miscellaneous Cause number 304 of 2018. There was an issue of inviolability of the right to leave one's country, the right to leave your country. Can the state prevent you from leaving the country? He also led that case in Stella Nyanzi versus Attorney General, High Court Miscellaneous Cause number 247 of 2017. In 2020, under Council Ssemakadde's stewardship as Council for Legal Brains Trust, he managed to secure a landmark decision where about $47 million was ordered to be returned, which had been taken from the public coffers. This was an unprecedented decision, and This money had been corruptly withdrawn from the National Treasury Bill by politically well-connected persons, and many people some recognized it, but notably, senior advocate Philip Karugaba acclaimed this verdict as an outstanding victory for public interest litigation, and he also mentioned it as probably the largest refund order ever made in Uganda's jurisprudence. So those are some of the achievements of Council Ssemakadde. But what's funny, and where Council Ssemakadde goes away from all of us lawyers, some of us would have been satisfied with that verdict. We've won our case, we've got judge, we've got cost and runoff. He was not satisfied. Council Ssemakadde still went to the Supreme Court to appeal. Why? Because the Court of Appeal did not handle, according to him, the Court of Appeal did not thoroughly handle the role of the central bank, the role of other commercial banks that participated in the whole saga, and also the role of certain officials. So he wanted, his main aim was not just to have a case won, but it was to have, it was strategic to have a principle, because this case involved taking public funds and putting the rest of the public at risk. So right now he's actually he still had the aspect of an appeal, and in his view, that maybe he'll communicate later, is that a proper decision by the Supreme Court that governs all these issues that were raised would put the matter to rest. It was not just a matter of having the case settled, and that is him. At great personal risk and also sacrifice, which has been noted by most of us in the profession, most of the academics, most of the practitioners, I'll just mention some other situations that that ring a bell, that raise, make you raise your curiosity about Council Ssemakadde. There was a case during COVID of Dr. Jim Spire Sentongo and 132 other Ugandans during the COVID lockdown. Some people are being considered apparently, what do we call them, health suspects or COVID suspects. They're suspected to have been infected by COVID, and they are going to be subjected to detention, quarantine, and certain things which were not so well stipulated. And Council Ssemakadde stepped in to have a proper discussion with the Ministry of Health to prevent a situation that would be violation of the right to personal liberty. So he came in to do that. He has had cases with media workers. There's a case where media workers were laid off by Nation Media. Over 100 former workers were laid off by New Vision and the media group. So he spearheaded the class action in 2017 on behalf of 400 former workers also of Crane Bank. Those are some of the achievements or some of the things he has done in relation to industrial court or employment law. There's a case involving the Jamayat Dawa Muslim community, where he secured a landmark compensation. I don't know if you were paying attention at the time, where there was a raid on a worship place, and there were, yes, they're actually our neighbors, but by the time we were not there. So at the time, maybe we were still setting up, but there was a case where that issue was raised, and there were suspicions of a terrorist cell and things like that. He actually spearheaded that case to get justice for the community. You'd look at that. Yeah. And then, important to us or important to students, he has given academic and administrative support to staff of Makerere University, where he was a standby legal observer in January 2019. This was mainly to support and help in industrial action for cases where people had been victimized, even their representatives had been victimized, and he had to represent them at the University Council and at the Tribunal and in the High Court and other fora to ensure that their rights as workers were respected. He is also, in relation to students, and that's Council of the Uganda National Students Association, which he has been since 2014. Ssemakadde has helped numerous students obtain court orders, setting aside unfair or unrealistic decisions by administrative authorities. To mention but a few, you have the case of Yasin Sentumbe versus Uganda Christian University. That's miscellaneous cause number 2012-2017. You have Unsa versus Nkumba University,
High Court Miscellaneous Cause number 28 of 2017. You have Naroga versus Macquarie University, miscellaneous application number 132 of 2016. You have the case of Emma Amadrio versus Ministry of Health. That's the case that involved medical interns. It's referred to as the medical interns case. He spearheaded that. You had the case of Namsoke Maureen versus Macquarie University, High Court Miscellaneous Cause number 265 of 2017. That one dealt with admission to medical school and various other cases. So he has spearheaded many cases that involve students, whereas he was a student, I mean, years ago. Yeah. He has also had cases, and he had an interesting case which dealt with the decriminalization of certain drugs that were considered narcotic under the Narcotics and the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act. There was that case. I don't know if you've seen it, but you can look for it and find the case which was dealing with cat. I think cat is a substance. One of those substances that were being considered a narcotic. So yes, it's a drug. It's a shrub. It's a shrub. It's a shrub. Is it Mira? Yeah. So he spearheaded that case to ensure that courts handled that. Court also policy handled that matter according to the law. You know, passing the right law and making the right decisions. He also had a case with Uganda Dairy Traders Association. He secured a landmark decision on judicial review, setting aside the ban on marketing and selling of unpackaged and unlabeled milk in cities. You look at the case of Dairy Traders Association versus Dairy Development Authority. Yeah, so he has set many of these landmark cases. And then there was an interesting case of UPE beneficiaries where he helped as an education rights campaigner to design and conduct strategic litigation that prevented government from reducing capital grants that are sent to government and grant aided schools in the UPE or USE structure. Yeah, and there was also he has also had some work for journalists. He has secured the landmark judicial review order in a case reiterating media access to judicial proceedings, as well as rulings and other fundamental aspects of the rights, which deals with the right to access information. And then, during the early stages of the Anti-Pornography Act of 2014, he represented cases involving artists like, I don't know if you remember, Desire Luzinda, Jemima Kansime, who was also referred to as Panado Abasajja, like that, for whom he battled to ensure their right to personal liberty was respected. So this is, and I'm trying to cut short some of these things that relate to Ssemakadde. And when you're asking your question, whether he is the right person to deliver a speech or to deliver a lecture on the role of a lawyer in public interest litigation, the role of the lawyer and the interplay with the state, to us as a university and to the students who have been interacting with him, we thought it would be the right person to come and deliver this guest lecture. So without further ado, I hope I've been as brief as I could be. I'd like to introduce to you Council Ssemakadde.
Thank you very much. You've been thorough and you've been kind. Back on track. Bang the table. Back on track. Bang the table. All the achievements that my namesake has stipulated have been the result of teamwork. And so, before I say anything, Mr. Dean and your delegation, I would like to introduce my delegation. In the order of seniority, Ms. Sheila Namahe. Sheila and I have done most of those cases together. She likes to take a back seat. I call her thin pencil counsel. Be very careful about women who wear stilettos. Yes, and work with rebels. They are very, very thorough and incisive in their interpretation of the law. You will find her name mentioned in the case of Wakiso Mira Growers, the cat case, Vice Attorney General, together with the landmark case of Uganda National Dairy Traders Association versus DDA, the case which involved lactation, the source of lactation support for so many mothers. Sheila, you can now sit down. Sheila and I are classmates. We've done life together, life, law, and business together. Currently, I'm assisted by Miss Isabella Nachionga. You can come closer. She's another legal rebel in the making. She has withstood my dictatorship for the last 5 or so years since we met in the stellar cases. I won't say more. Thank you very much, Isabella, for making it our inaugural guest lecture at the Avant-Garde University in Kampala that we call Victoria University. You are a lucky lot, and I will explain later why. I jumped at the opportunity. Who is the gentleman who has been disturbing me? Yes, please come here. This gentleman is a study in persistence. He has, which class are you now? He's in year 3. He has persisted since he turned up here. He has persisted that I should come and address the students. It's not enough to use tweets. On that we agree. Thank you very much for and convincing the dean on short notice to make this possible. I'm very proud of you, sir. Another member of my team is Mr. Andrew Obam. Yes, Andrew Obam. Andrew, come and share the stage with me. Thank you. Yes, you can speak for yourself. In Uganda, they say, when the owner of the spirit is here, you do not voice words for him.
Thank you so much. My name is Obam Andrew, and when I introduce myself, I often spell the name. It is O-B-A-M, not with a U. I'm deeply humbled and honored at the same time to share this space with my senior brother, Council Isaac. Without any further ado, I'd like to set the record straight. You are a privileged lot, and after today, please bang the tables.
Andrew is very modest. Andrew is a specialist attorney. He has a website called obamandrew.com. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so everything is found there. But Andrew has been the light of my present mission. He was among the earliest endorsers of a legal rebel for the office of president of Uganda Law Society. When many still doubted that it was the right choice, it was the ideal choice, to use the words of your dean. So I'm very, 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 very grateful, Andrew, for that endorsement. And fighting the line for a radical new bar, daring to dream. That is not something possible once you join the bar, as I will speak about it in my lecture. Lastly, some two ladies here. Another case study in persistence and stubbornness. Yes, please come for some recognition. They are twins, actually, Cynthia and Yvonne. When you come, yes, that's it. Yeah, like that. Yeah, it's women in the front. Yeah. What you see together is the product of a digital life, a digital existence, where most of you spend the majority of your time. It's called eyeballs and clicks and everything. It's not possible if you're not deliberate. You may not forge a physical life with the people you fight wars, all these ladies here abused me. They were ruthless. But now we are friends. We are friends, and more than that, we are assisting each other to rise in different ways. So I wish the same for you, to find comrades in the digital space and, move from the TL to the DM to the dining table and to the podium. Please touch the podium. Yes, and to the podium. Whether or not you agree about anything, it doesn't matter. Life must be lived, and lived with joy and without apology. I'm very grateful for your unapologetic, sassy behavior. Keep it up. Without them, my campaign wouldn't have an engine room. They have marketed the brand back on track more than I could have done that. I am quite a very brash speaker, according to Dr. Kabumba, as he wrote. It is true. It is true. I'm a table banger. They don't bang tables. They just wear stilettos. But don't let that fool you. The rest of my team is in security and would like to share this moment. So I will jump right in to the guest lecture. Mr. Fnadula and the faculty of the, did I say Mr. or you're now Doctor, sir? Doctor Isaac Fnadula, the Dean Faculty of Law, and the members of faculty of the Victoria School of Law. I'm very proud and privileged to be here. I was part of a team consulted to assist the university achieve the necessary licensing, and part of our campaign for running for this office is to ensure that the system bottlenecks you faced in getting the license and getting this place off are not repeated anymore. The students' body, the Victoria University Law Society, thank you for extending the invitation to me through your dean. And thank you again for fighting our wars on the internet for a radical new bar. There is no contradiction in you being able to see the shining castle on the hill, even before you enter the bar, while those in the bar don't see it, don't feel that they're close to it, and take great offense that you see it, shining brighter than they currently are. The content of my speech will explain that contradiction very well. So don't lose hope. Don't lose the madness. It is necessary for you to deliver us to the shining castle on the hill, which we shall achieve through the 4 Ds that my campaign stands for. That is decolonization, demilitarization, democratization, and digital transformation. I have been seeing most of you online, retweeting and following this conversation. So I want to unpack that today. The purpose here is to explain the relationship between lawyers and the state, and to make the case for a radical new bar in contemporary Uganda. Mr. Dean, the brief summation, the summation of what we have to talk about today for your students is to explain to them where we came from, where we are, and where we should go. That is often missed when law is studied as just another course without a proper doctrinal investigation, for which I am certain is the reason I was invited here. The practice of law in Uganda is similar to a situation of borrowing a friend's car to take someone out on a first date. In the end, you will have to return it to the owner, and if the date agreed to go out with you because they thought you owned a car, then even the relationship will not develop in the way you had hoped. We borrowed our system of legal practice from someone who owns it. And we took Ugandans out on a date with it. They have found out that we don't own the legal system. And we are clueless about when we can afford to buy or purchase or create a legal system that is indeed indigenous. And so our relationship as lawyers with the people of Uganda and with the state of Uganda is in a shambles. It is in a crisis. We have been discovered to own nothing. The immediate challenge of law in Uganda covers the 4 areas of training, lawmaking, judging, and law enforcement. In offering myself to stand for the presidency of Uganda Society, I am inspired, in fact impelled. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing people use the pulpit of Uganda Society to speak about everything else except these 4, with clarity, with doctrinal clarity, with doctrinal purity, because that's the essence of law. That's the essence of the law society, to remind the public about doctrinal purity. Take, for instance, the situation of legal training. It took your university founders 8 years to settle the question of licensing. It's not because they lacked money or they lacked real estate. All right? So what exactly? Is it because the government doesn't desire for more people to study law? When you finish and you go to, you wish to enter LDC, you will find problems. After that, you still find problems, and so on and so forth. So training has to be put on the table, and this year we are putting it on the ballot. And I am told that people who had been locked out of LDC were yesterday, the door was opened because of banging the table. We've been moving around law schools and saying there is no solution here. Bang the table so that lawyers understand that there will be those who will kick their asses if they don't, stop obstructing and stifling their path into the legal profession. I'm so proud of your generation. You're already winning. But beyond that, the more fundamental challenge is threefold. It's one, but with 3 heads. That is, what is the purpose of law in a post-colony like Uganda? Who owns the law? Ownership. Who owns the law in a post-colony like Uganda? And lastly, what are we doing about the counterfeit aspects of law in a post-colony like Uganda? Those of you who have already finished first year, you'll be aware of the words received law or imported law, right? And the repugnancy doctrine as interpreted under the 1902 and 1920 orders in council and the first judicial statute, which is now the Judicature Act, which creates a hierarchy of laws and places our indigenous laws, the lowest in hierarchy, and says they shall only be, invoked to the extent that they are not repugnant to some other laws. Isn't this a counterfeit hierarchy? So those are the more fundamental challenges about law, more fundamental than how it is trained, how it is made, how it is judged, and how it is enforced. Let me explain further. Our laws are essentially English in origin. That should already be a problem. However, in life, one starts where they have to start from, where one finds oneself. We didn't ask to be born here. We now know better that had we been born elsewhere, things may be different. But in order to go where we wish to go, we must accept that we were born here, and we are of here in these circumstances. We are the remnants of natives on a post-colonial. We are the people talked about in Paul Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. We are the people talked about in Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the what? Of the Earth. And Walter Rodney's Why Europe Underdeveloped Africa. We are still those people. Don't let the passage of time fool you. It was just 60 years ago or 40 years ago that our leading lights were intellectualizing this. And remember, their process of intellectualizing our way out of those doldrums was halted, through Cold War actions like killing Lumumba and many others, Thomas Sankara, coups across the place and so on and so forth. But I digress. It is very hard to choose your starting point. I have decided, my namesake, to choose a starting point. I have decided that practice of law for me is over. The radicalization of law has started. Our legal profession originates in two arguments that began in England that don't get sufficient ventilation in the legal academy for a number of reasons. But I'm not tied to the academy, so I still have some freedom of thought, and I will be blunt. The first argument is internal to England, and it created the first contradiction in the way their laws were designed. The English, in their proper accentuation, are fraudulent, to put it lightly, and they know this. For instance, there is a permanent tension between their need in English law, between the need for natural human justice. Who is the English scholar that speaks to this? I forget, because I know mostly Fuller, who is an American. Okay, but the English recognize that there's natural law. However, because of the needs of their capitalist economy, they invented positive law. That is law to support the capitalist economy and the feudal one before it. So they shut their eyes to natural law or natural justice. But in our vernacular, they say you cannot treat diarrhea by shutting the anus. So these tensions have played out in English law, as you may read it in what you call history, English legal history. It can be seen especially in the history of labor law, wherein we see English laws being constantly made to enable older ideas, much older ideas like Ubuntu, returned as new ideas called equi, to become modern law and to eliminate practices that were part and parcel of British life as described by Charles Dickens in any of the books. Oliver Twist, anyone? Bleak House, and many others. What do they describe in those books? They describe child slavery in factories. They describe a constant fight for decent working conditions and even the right to organize at the workplace. These things are absent in Charles Dickens' works. So English law then suddenly makes a hero of those who return natural law as modernity. The second argument was and is, of course, the consequences of the resolution of the first. That is English duplicity. To solve the problem of English duplicity on their own island, They came up with a wonderful idea, a fantastic idea, and they shared it with the rest of the European tribes in a meeting shared by Bismarck. Yes. So the whole of Western Europe solved its governance, employment, and population crisis by agreeing to expand far beyond its borders and take over much of the rest of the world so as to make their economies more rich. That's easy. This meant taking physical control of these spaces, such as our lands. That process is called colonization. And then organizing our spaces, our lives, our cultures, our economies, our politics to be of productive economic use, not to us, but the colonizer. That process is called colonialism. Organization, according to the terms of the colonizer. Remember, colonization is the invasion of a land which you intend to extract, purely extract for the good of your home origin and stuff like that. So it meant introducing, among other things, guess what? A judicial system for the colonized lands and the colonized peoples. But since colonization had been an invasion and colonialism was an occupation, this meant two things. The first was to build pseudo-legalities on what is essentially an illegality. This is a very difficult conversation for so many Ugandan elites. I wrote a paper called Attorney General Chilewa Chiwanuka is the wrong man for the wrong job. And the first part of the essay is dedicated to describing how the office of Attorney General is the wrong job, because it is a pseudo legality, dressing up a naked illegality. I will not argue the point more. I will recommend the article. For those who haven't yet read it, please read it, because it's going to be now the basis of a jihad. The second, that dog won't hunt. That dog won't hunt. The second thing that came out of colonialism is that there was yet another deception, that it is possible to modify laws that were brought into the colonies so as to accord to the colonized, and occupied peoples the same rights before law, as though they were the natural heritage and assumption of the citizen of the colonizing country back home. What do I mean by this? In both orders in council, there is a provision that the judges sitting in the high court of the colonized, territory have been given permission to amend, modify, codify, change, English law, which they know very, very well, to suit what they think are the proper conditions for colonization and colonialism to thrive. You understand? Your teachers have taught you very much how this played out. For instance, the erasure of our marriages in Rex Amkeyo, and the taking of our lands. The Kabaka once owned everything and was left with Orenda, 900 square miles out of everything, and so on and so forth. So, but this was law, and we still cite it as law. If we began to argue that the state must return to the people what belongs to the people, there will be lawyers like Yoshinoka turning up to say, no, that can't happen. Dean, there is a case called Constitutional Petition number 28 of 2019. It was brought by Honorable Retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Honorable Mr. Daldino Okello, together with retired Bishop Macleo Dochora and Center for Public Interest Litigation, CEPIL, against the Attorney General and 8 district land boards.
A judicial colloquium where only judges are there and what they say remains there. So in judicial colloquium, the judges are discussing that they should abandon courtroom attire. When they return to their jurisdictions, they realize that they will lose all power if they left. You know, if they implemented what was discussed in the colloquium. So they keep going to colloquia. They use our money to travel for this colloquia. And when they return, they disown what was discussed and agreed in colloquia. So let me just list some of these things. The use of English language. Is there any movement to drop the use of English language in our courts? At least in South Africa, when they wrote the Rainbow Constitution, they agreed that any of the 11 languages are official for court. For us, we have stressed English is official for court. You know? British and Commonwealth citations. Command is authority. Whereas African witticisms and proverbs, if you cited them, you'll be laughed out of what? Out of court. Don't they command authority in our true justice? They do. Do you study them? Is there a course unit for African witticism and proverbs? Maybe it's time to disrupt and radicalize legal training that way. Similar police ranks. Can you imagine a small colony like Uganda has an inspector general? He shares the same seat with the director of FBI. We're talking of massive states here. Each state has an SBI, a State Bureau Investigation. Then you have FBI. But the Ugandan IGP is automatically equal to the FBI Director General. That is his counterpart. Parliamentary attire. You've seen the clothes for which we pay billions for. Yeah, and so on. But our judicial system, however, lacks the more substantial core features of the same system from which it is copied. For instance, and stay with me here, jury hearings. You will never hear the British or the Americans express a desire to abandon a jury system. They consider it a sine qua non of justice, that a man must be judged by a panel of his or her peers, not some judge in some way. You know? Secondly, we lack local government oversight over the police. I don't know if you're familiar with this. In UK, they don't have a national police. They have a constabulary in every local government. And they have a police watch which recruits police officers for their constabulary. Such that even the Prime Minister can be arrested in Stoke or York. And he has no one at a higher level to call because that's not the work of Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard takes instructions from local constabularies, not from the Prime Minister. Here, our police is the remnant of the King's African Rifles. It is a garrison police to padlock us and panic us to serve the goals of empire or its successor. These are conversations your generation should not allow to die. Clear? Yeah. I think I've mentioned the idea of there being no single police force, but multiple police forces, just like in America. In America, they have what they call, who knows it? They have several levels of police. Who can name 3? I have money. Sheriff. Yes, there's the office of sheriff. Then, yes, the sheriff. What else is there? They have the state police. Have you seen those who chase you and if you pass the boundary, they pause? Yeah. And there's a video. I shot the sheriff. You can finish, but I think it's Warrengy. You know, the sheriff can't go beyond the boundaries of his area, so he has to call the state police, and the state police can't go beyond the state boundary. And so he's saying he enjoys the American system because he's an outlaw, you know, and so on and so forth. Yeah, all of which remained law in England, but were not, these benefits, these constituent parts of law, English law, were not brought to the colonies, and there's no movement to accept that what we have is a counterfeit, a copycat. Let's have the legit English system here. So the fact that six decades after independence, we still operate juryless courts while claiming to be operating a judicial system inspired by the British one, which has and has always had juries, is perhaps the best illustration of the cultural and conceptual confusion we suffer. You get that? Yeah, this is very important. What I'm saying in blunt terms is that the people you're calling lawyers, officers of law, are suffering under the weight of cultural and conceptual confusion. And that's why they increasingly become tyrannical, oppressive, and exploitative. They are powerless. They lash out quite very easily because This is not the natural state of things. They are not your judges. You didn't elect them. You didn't choose them. You didn't participate them. And you can't hold them accountable except by banging tables. That's the only accountability you can get. We have worked it out. I have read my long CV of winning, and I'm here lamenting. What does that mean? So, we copied not English law, not English lawmaking, not English practice of law, but we have simply been stuck with protectorate versions of it, colonial versions of it, diluted, polluted versions of English law are what we are stuck with. Mr. Dean and members of faculty and dear students, in your Constitution of Uganda, you have two articles I wish to stress. Article 4 and Article 127 that have remained inert since the making of the Constitution, whose memory, whose curiosity is sufficiently triggered, to use the words of the Dean, to know those provisions. The gentleman at the back, very attentive. You, yes, you with glasses. Yes. Article 4. Attentive. Okay, you can use your phones, all of you. I'll give some time. Article 4. Yes. Shoot. Make it discussable. Yes.
Article 4 of the 1995 amendment normally talks about the human rights.
That's chapter 4. Not
Article 4, chapter 4.
Yeah.
Article 4.
Promotion of
I want to read it in context. I know Article 2 talks about the power belongs to the people, then 3 talks about
defense of the Constitution.
self-defense of the Constitution. You can permit me.
I will permit you. I like that. A man with confidence.
If permit me, then you
Yes.
can read about that.
Yes. The law is referred to. We don't own the law. Okay? I like that. A good lawyer knows where to find it. Yes.
Promotion of public awareness of the Constitution.
Yes. Go on.
The state shall promote public awareness of this Constitution by translating it into Uganda languages and disseminating it as widely as possible.
Has that been done? Is there any step to do it? So we can then go to Article 127.
If I can read it, Robert.
Yes. Let us record him.
But Article 127 of the 1995 as amended, participation of the people in the administration of justice. Parliament shall make law providing participation of the people in the administration of justice.
Has Parliament made any law to increase, catalyze, multiply the participation of the people in the administration of justice in Uganda?
Ssemakadde, I feel like this article was not read well. I want to read again.
Yes. I like that. Back on track.
Back the table!
Back the table.
Back on track! Article 127 of the Constitution of Uganda 1995 as amended. Participation of the people in the administration of justice. Parliament shall make law providing for the participation of the people in the administration of justice by the courts. That was more clear.
That was more clear.
Thank you.
You can speak to it. You can speak to it.
This is clear, as council just made it, that the parliament ought to have made law, which up to this time they have not made.
And they have no clue
And they have no clue
what that law looks like.
and what the law looks like. By the way, the more information I'm speaking to this, thank you so much. I'm more happy for giving me these 2 minutes. I know you have I know you have not given me, but I made it as implied. Ugandan's parliament, in quote, it is the president's parliament. The reason is very clear. I will give a most recent example. We have the person who is called the CDF of the country. We have article of the Constitution that speaks to what the role of the military is. The military are supposed to be non-partisan. We know what the person is doing right now. And more particularly, at the moment, we know what the comment has been made in Twitter. And have we had the response of the Attorney General to that effect? No. What is the Parliament saying to that effect? And therefore, the Parliament should have done what is called making a law so that such things will not happen. In summary, Council Ssemakadde, you've taken a very heavy stone. You've not lifted it, you've just seen the stone. By the time you're going to lift it, I pray God help you and everything happens. Thank you so much.
Let's have the gentleman's name for the record. You have very profound, recognizable names in law. We went to school with yet another good orator called Ola, and I think he's practicing now in Lira. Yeah. And he's also done. And then, okay. So, I'm happy that we've all understood thus far. The truth of the matter is that Parliament is perfectly capable of making laws to increase public participation in the courts, minimizing the role of the judge, and the orthodoxy of the English language. That is the desired goal of the constitutional project. So what stops it? We call this the force of colonial hangover, dealing with colonial trauma. When your best pillars of thought are scared to stand tall and face destiny, and they find comfort in history. So the solution is to awaken young minds like you and return you to the pre-colonial methods of education which involve imbalance. We have to take your foreskins and remind you what it means to be a man. By the strike of dawn on the cold river. And young ladies, we must get you to know the ways of the world when your breasts are still sharp. And before your hymens have been pierced, you must own your womanhood in that stage, and you must own it as a warrior, defender, protector. Not this nonsense they tell you that you are fated to be perpetual victims that require donor-centered protection, which I will discuss next. So, law and justice. This is my reflection of how things stand. Dean, after that elaborate, introduction you gave as you went into academia, because we practiced together for some time. Yes. And then you went to South Africa. Yes. For the masters, and yes, success separated us, but success has also united us. So this is my report. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now seen that justice and law are not the same thing, but that is not a confession lawyers in the post-colony will make lightly. They find that radical. Justice. Who owns justice? Roy Ayuguumya. Stand up for recognition. Roy and I have been combatants together in student struggles when I was providing standby observer, legal observer status for the staff strike. We needed to, I was delegated to find capable, articulate young men that can, in the students' movement, that can articulate the staff cause as a student's cause and faith-delivered role. He was very much capable for the role, the leader role. Roy, who do you think owns justice? Who should own justice? The people. Thank you, yes. And the people organize themselves into currently what they call a state. So justice belongs to the state, not the government of the day. In fact, the state can hold the government of the day accountable. It can find it wanting in law. And this is the practice that my namesake has shown you. That is my whole track record, using institutions of the state to hold the government accountable, to have it declared wanting in law, to have its actions declared wanting in law. So, but this has steadily eroded to the extent that even lawyers don't think it's still possible that justice belongs to the state anymore. There is a zeitgeist. Justice is owned by the government, and as Professor Ora has told us, government is one man. Yeah. Those engaged in any aspect of the law, training, lawmaking, judging, and law enforcement must be made to understand this key difference: justice, law, and government. It is therefore about the goal of training you to become lawyers in a post-colony like Uganda, is to make you foot soldiers in a struggle, in a tug of war, a tussle, where the state triumphs over everything and everyone. And we're talking about the African state here, the post-colonial African state. You're supposed to give it energy, blood, sweat, toil, tears, so that it can win justice for every African who desires it. Justice on behalf of Africans should be your motto. Because lately Africans don't get justice through the African state. In fact, Africans are taking great risks to leave the African lands to attain justice out of Africa. So many of your age mates, explore Arabia and any other option but home to find justice. Because they don't think that the state, that the people of Uganda are actively involved in this struggle to win back justice and share it equitably with themselves. So, it's daunting. It's very daunting that we are stuck with this counterfeit system I've explained, which actually fell apart a long time ago with the Amin and Obote governing crisis. What was worse is that with the arrival of the NRM in power, the counterfeiting of justice in our post-colony was reconstituted largely now as a Western donor concerned project. You may not be so familiar with what they call swaps, like jealous. Okay? But even the way how we organize our justice law and order sector agencies is dictated by those who support them. Finance, you make a basket fund, and then we address you as a group of 17 instead of, as independent institutions. What has this created? It has created a cultural norm, a cultural zeitgeist that is offered even in our election, called stakeholder collaboration, as though that is the only way through which you can attain justice. In other words, it has created new rules of propriety. So now, the police, the courts, the prisons meet so often to even discuss common budgets and everything, that a situation has emerged within themselves, that what are checks and balances for? What is it that we can't discuss in a jealous colloquium? A common problem at the bar or in legal practice, when we accuse any judge or the judiciary of anything, they tell us you're using the wrong forum. Bring it to the backbench forum. Bring it to the principal judge, the chief justice for tea. Because this is what they have learned as good behavior. So, but who created this? Who caused this? The Western donor, reconstitution of how we pursue justice. When you study online, you find that I celebrated when the president finally realized that DGF must go. You can Google my debut. I said, wonderful. DGF were dictators' girlfriends. They should never have been here. They have qualitatively done worse. The more money they funded, they put in our justice system, the lower the quality. I do public interest law, for instance, and we never received any money, and we would never receive any of it. And yet they pumped all this money in all sorts of things that could not push the needle for you. Just use the case of students, for instance. Students, the majority of young people in Uganda spend their time in school. That's the place where they're going to learn contestation of power. That's the place where they're going to learn justice. And there's no intervention there at all. The only interventions that you have read, which people are celebrating, were the result of Shilanda and I providing a shrine for you to celebrate rights. Okay? So, justice itself is a very old concept. It has existed in every civilization. In fact, it is the height of civilization. Once you can agree on rules of justice, you are a civilized people. It is therefore one of the earliest concepts through which humanity civilizes itself. Justice is the supreme goal of humanity. So is justice something you learn in law school? Is it something unique to lawyers? Is it something ring-fenced for lawyers? Or legal institutions or judges? No. Even engineers are pursuing justice. Soldiers see themselves pursuing their highest human endeavor, justice. Pilots, teachers, sweepers. In Nevada, they give me broom. And I'm very proud of it. They said, should we win should have this broom on our pulpit because it represents getting back on what? On track. Yeah. You are young lawyers like you. So you are even left wondering, for instance, whether justice exists in the countries where we copied the current justice system. Let me explain. In capitalist countries, if their object of maintaining a judicial system, what is the object of the British system today? What do we learn from, say, Julian Assange? Those of us who are freedom of expression, absolutists. We were taken aback when we saw the two great powers, detain this person endlessly against all advice of all human rights scholars and bodies. So it appears that even the English justice system simply exists to prevent citizens taking matters into their own hands. It's an elite bargain to prevent vigilantism. Okay? However, it is also an elite bargain to monopolize violence in the hands of one class, as we have seen in the situation of Assange. It is probably there to prevent the disruption of production activity, as opposed to ensuring that at all times the right thing is what is done. In all cases, we must be concerned with the struggle for justice. I say this with some trauma, because my own cohort, and I'm very proud of them, Mr. Obama, thanks for coming. There is a cultural war within the bar today, offered by my candidacy, as to whether lawyers should be involved in a struggle. Why does an activist want our politics? Why does an activist want to reframe the rules and say, I'm going to get you back on what? We're on track. We're on track. Yeah? Why should getting back on track be a struggle, and why should it involve table banging? Are you getting me? This is a very serious awakening. In other words, at the bar today, in the old bar, there is somnambulism. Somnambulism, sleepwalking. There is collective amnesia, especially those who are most senior, those who consider themselves most successful. They have no struggle in them. They have no fire in the belly anymore. So when they see you speak about justice with fire in the belly, they are up in arms and they are saying, no, he or she must be stopped. He's misleading young people. You don't need to struggle for justice. It is given to you. You just beg, and beg properly, reasonably, quietly, with humility, with decorum.
Decorum Z! Decorum Z!
No, we say decorum, that dog won't hunt.
Decorum!
That dog won't hunt.
Decorum!
That dog won't hunt. Humility.
That dog won't hunt.
Civility.
That dog won't hunt.
Gratitude.
That dog won't hunt.
Yes. Justice. So the point I'm making is that at all times, in all cases, and when I say in all cases, it's very important here, human relations as well. In love, as in war, we must remind ourselves that all human endeavor is a constant struggle for justice. So law, which you're studying for here, is merely a vessel, it's merely a vehicle, it's merely a potential delivery system. There are other competing and alternative ways of attaining justice. So we can close all those schools and still have justice. We can kill all the lawyers and still have, who said those words? They are usually ascribed to Shakespeare. The first thing you do is power. Yes, he was talking justice, simply state. Okay? It has nothing to do with law, study, and so on. That's a very good argument to make for those who want to stop the number of law schools and the number of lawyers. The number of lawyers has nothing to do with justice. You can have all the lawyers, all the citizens in the country lawyers, and justice may be as scarce. May be as scarce as it was before. You know? So just as the purpose of, I want here to make, and I'm sorry if I may offend, but sometimes to make important intellectual arguments, you have to take the risk of offending. And religion is a wonderful punching bag. Just as the purpose of all the different religious beliefs is a struggle to deliver people to some deity, say God. So should we understand justice. It is an ideal that while being one thing, it can be conceptualized and worked for in different and differing systems. Are we there? I will bring my pet subject, abolish LDC. When we say abolish LDC, most people say, oh, that will take away justice. No. Okay? LDC is simply a big white elephant in your pathway to the bar. It was constructed by humans like you. So it can be reconstructed, including abolition, disbandment, and everything, and a building model. Alternative pathways to the bar. Which pathway is Kardashian using? Anyone? Kim Kardashian hasn't gone to law school. Okay? She has conversations with counsel. Okay? And what? I beg your pardon? Yes. Yes. And the California bar encourages it. Because you know the number of the latest count on the people she has managed to release from the judicial, from the prison industrial complex of America, which the bar had ignored. Do you know the number? It trumps what many practitioners have done in life. Are you getting me? So why deny her a license if she's clear and she says, I want a license to fight for those who are unfairly convicted? Can you, in your system, give me that kind of license? I'm not concerned about the license for that, the license for that, and the license for that. No, I am fulfilled, I'm successful, but I lack what to do. Yet they still fire in my belly for justice. Are you getting me? So justice, I repeat, is one thing, just like the core belief of faith. But it can be attained through multiple alternative, opposing, contradictory methods. All roads lead to Omaka. Is it clear? So, I think I've made the argument. I've demystified justice for you as a sole property of law, legal academies, legal institutions like courts, and legal cultures and legal histories and legal dogmas, right? Our concern, therefore, is how to see the citizens of Uganda with grievances get justice. From the preamble and introduction that you were given, the pandemic offered us a wonderful opportunity to have lawyers declared non-essential and to have courts closed. So how are Ugandans going to get? That is when Ssemakadde said, I must sharpen my treatment, such that I can offer Ugandans justice without writing pleadings. It was psychological. In fact, somebody came to interview me. Oh, it was a young man like you in second year at Macquarie University. He wrote a blog called The Legal Reports. He thought that if he asked me, why have the government, declared lawyers non-essential, what do you have to say about it? I told him bluntly, lawyers are non-what? Non-essential, essential workers don't need a classification. A classification, they just show up. And they will show up, you will see them. Okay? Yeah, so it's a very interesting article, I think, online, you read about it. Very interesting arguments we had. Contrarian arguments. Since then we have become friends because he came to one thing, he wanted a space filler. And we talked long into the night about the, the Ugandan lawyer being completely non-essential. And the pandemic was the perfect time to show you that life can go on. Ugandans can still negotiate their justice without you. So, but there are more lessons than that, and we can't complete them. So, this process of helping our fellow citizens settle their grievances through justice and not just only through lawyers is something that will not be done without modifying what we think about the origin of our law. English law training, and I'm happy that that's something that is core to the mission here. What to pick and choose deliberately from English law training. English law making, English law justicing, and English law enforcement. We have to stand tall and now say we are making modifications to what we inherited as a form of struggle. Now, none of this will happen if we remain stuck to the donor-driven identity, the identity-based systems. Let me submit here that what we currently have and what we currently have to fight, because people imagine that we have no fight. But when I offered myself to stand for presidency, it came as a shock probably to some people. But who challenged it? Who said that one should not be president of the bar? Was it fellow lawyers? Who did? It was the judiciary through the chief registrar. Don't forget that day. Don't forget the significance of that moment. The most, what's the word? I'm the only attorney on record that I know that the Ugandan society gave an award for being the most outstanding advocate in public interest law, fighting the public cause. After me, they never gave that award to anybody else. And that was 6 years ago. I don't know, for some reason they woke up from their somnambulism, they found their soul, and they said it resides in you. It resides in you. Now, I was surprised that I'm the person judges studied and said, no, not that one. He has a different aura. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that currently you're besieged by cadre lawmakers, cadre police, cadre judges, operating the law as a machine in the interest of a regime. And they know it. And they know that they can count on the silence and subservience of those who wish to join their ranks. And they have formed the view, as my land brother Tebule said, that Isaac carries no notion in his mind that he will never be a judge here except in a liberated Uganda. Law is Uganda. Okay? So the judges know that. Now, I have decided, I also know it. I must make you the agents of the new Uganda. Those are the conversations I have with the twins. I introduced to them Professor Karugire's book, A Political History of Uganda. And every time they read the page, they were calling me and saying, I didn't know this, I didn't know this, I didn't know this. And I said, so why were you reading a strike? To liberate Uganda, if you don't know where Uganda came from, where Uganda is and where Uganda is going. Okay? We have a lot of debates of this kind. but I've enjoyed the miseducation of the teachers as a microcosm for the rest of life for you. And I'm encouraging them to put these lessons into writing, because they attain the viral moment, okay, which is important for the rest of you to learn. Now, the question of what kind of law system will work best must be determined by an examination of what legal needs the population has in the 21st century, and then prepare the right kind of training and organization for it. I want to repeat that. Now that we know law and justice, now that we've made a proper reflection of law and justice, and we must find in our lives a moment to fight for justice and not refuse to turn up for the struggle for justice, we come to full clarity that all those who accept that justice is the highest human endeavor to seek must consequentially ask themselves a present-day question. What are the legal needs of our population, and are we trained appropriately for them? Are we organizing our legal system appropriately to solve those problems? There's a conversation that is more difficult today, so I'll just hint on it. The conversation about the Anti-Homosexuality Act and how we've gone about it. All right? Now, I don't want to speak so much about the law itself, the lawyers and the sub judice, but I want to ask you, is it just that one state says there should be no wells in Budaka because of how your state passed legislated, made law about something like sexuality? Is it just to blacklist financial system of a state, to bully, a legal institution, including its leaders? Is that justice? But how many are brainwashed to think that those actions are legitimate? All right? That's something to think about. I'm proud that I stood up and I said Western sanctions in the 21st century must be opposed by the youth of that day, because they contaminate your idea of justice. They perpetuate the colonial trauma that justice is a high water mark set for you by a foreigner, and you have not seen it. They infantilize you, demobilize you. You can't chase your own hyenas. Okay? You think that others should chase your hyenas for you. You even use foreign tools to hashtag hyenas away. We are doing justice. We are doing justice. Are you getting me? Yes. I will stop there. I'm looking at you. My track record has been to push at the boundaries of all these constraints we have discussed. I have refused to be silenced, to be intimidated, to seek popularity. And if I win the presidency of the Law Society, I wish to be judged by that creed. Okay? Justice is something to be contested. We don't have to have the same view about it. The experiences I have had have led me to the firm conclusion that it is not one aspect or the other of the legal system that is at fault. Rather, the problem lies with the legal system as a whole, in terms of how it was founded, the journey it went through, and how it therefore now operates. I'm happy that Mr. Obama
How many years have you got? You know, now. So we are in the same time. Yeah. He wrote this wonderful, summary. Like, but he said he had got a light bulb moment. So he cited Steve Jobs. Like, oh my God, all around, in the whole past decade, misfits and outliers and creators have been around us, angels and prophets. And we didn't know. Now that they just pick a nomination form and the whole country goes on fire, it must mean something. I'm very, very, very proud of. Not that you blew my trumpet, but you came to your own clarity, and you shared in that moment. Most people who have been brainwashed for a long time, they riot once they discover true knowledge. They riot. They riot. They don't like the whole idea of having nothing to hold on. The old faith is gone. Now what will I believe? I have a little son, and one time he made us laugh. Telling you, his name is Isaac as well. So one time he confessed that he doesn't know how to relax. I just don't know how you people do it. But in that moment, at the same time, he was saying he's so scared of discovering relaxing. He's so scared, like he knows you guys do it. He knows he can try, but he's damn scared. So he has decided to tell himself that he doesn't know and can't learn. Like relaxing is something that takes a lot of time to learn and practice. It's a very profound statement that this little child, 8 years old, made. Just cut me out, relax, just accommodate me to be a complete nuisance until I fall down. I don't know how to relax. But I think most of us are in that position where we just don't know how to learn. We just don't know how to unlearn. We just don't know how to relearn. We're scared. We know it can be done. We know others have done it. One of the phrases Mr. Kotola liked and came to the team, he particularly came to my timeline and liked one thing only. And when I saw him do it, I summoned him to come and lead the campaign. Is it the prism need not sit on its base all the time? It can stand on its what? On its team. He liked that, and there was a former intern 2 years ago. So when I saw that that's what he liked from all the debris, I DM'd him and I said, I need a leader. I can't do this without people that understand, who can't, pick, what's the word, from a haystack? Pick a needle from a haystack. I need people like you back. So I will then go to training very quickly and make some concluding remarks. On legal training, Mr. Dean, my views on the apex process of creating a practicing lawyer are now public records. And there's a referendum on them over the weekend. Okay? LDC. They are well known. In fact, they have been the subject of some form of magma deceit. There's that phrase that even the wrong clock. Yeah, even the moribund institution called LDC finally found this module and said, oh, you guys, we have space for you, government has money for you. Can government now have money for the medical interns as well? What is good for the goose, what is sauce for the goose, is sauce for the gander. Now that government can find money to enable graduate lawyers access the pathway to their profession, it should find money to enable graduate doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and the other allied health professionals to enter internship without delay. The case you talked about, Emma Amadurio, is important for that purpose. It was the medical intern's case. It is the only case in which we got an interim order that, halted the government's pussyfooting. Said, no. Debate the merits of your internship policy while they are studying. So, legal training, just like now training for other professionals, these are the new sides of battle. The argument I am making to you and why I'm choosing to speak in lecture halls is that you are the soldiers. Don't expect trained lawyers to put their bodies on the line for you, right? Except a few madmen. Like me. Outcasts. Most people think we do this because we are rich. But actually, I came from exile. Roy knows. We used to work together until we couldn't even get money to feed each other, and we said we closed, Roy. We closed. And we closed the office. Did we, Roy? We closed. Isabella refused to close because she has an LDC problem, which was only solved recently. Yeah, but for her she had an interest. No, me I have nowhere to be. I'm still stuck in LDC purgatory. So we said you will sit there alone. Are you getting me? These are the realities. These are the stories people don't tell. And I'm happy that people came to the timeline yesterday and shared these stories. Yeah, but there are wider questions regarding interconnectedness, if not near incestuousness of the resultant legal profession. What does it speak our legal profession if all these newcomers are traumatized, broken? I don't know all the other words I could use. They are incapable of having resilience to make a decade. It is actually designed for a few. Our legal profession has traditionally been designed for what? For a few people, but is now occupied by many because it has few permanent jobs or career path and a limited conceptual scope. Are you hearing me, people? Stop studying law to become big lawyers and big judges. Okay, that conceptualization of your role in the legal academy is going to cause you a lot of trauma. All right? 2 million people enter the law school in India. And in China, lawyers compete with non-lawyers to join the bar, to address a judge, to get the license to in court. Lawyers don't compete with fellow law. They compete with everybody else. So, I recommend to you a book that helped me, introduce me to this conversation as well. It's a book called Tomorrow's Lawyers by Richard Susskind. Anybody have heard of it? Anybody has a copy? Please read it. It's absolutely critical that you do nothing else this weekend but access Susskind and see the argument he makes that the work of lawyers is deals and disputes, and anybody can do it well. Deals and what? Anybody can arrange a deal better than even lawyers, and anybody can do dispute resolution. But that's the work of lawyers. The rest is a creature of state control. And when people ask for deregulation, it will go away. All right? The apex jobs we have are only a handful and not accessed by a fully transparent process. The person they fired as case director, did she sit in interviews? But it's a public office job. Did the bar challenge that? the person occupying the office of DPP, Deputy Chief Justice, all these big legal jobs, all jobs for lawyers, they are few, and they don't have, and their access is not contested. Very many lawyers in Uganda, if you go to them and ask them what does Article 25 of the ICCPR say, they don't know it. They don't know it. Does anybody here know it? Article 25, versus CPR. Sub-Article 2, it is the right of all citizens in the country to have equal access to the public service of their country. So should your country create a public service or a public job, every citizen should contest for that job. And the government must justify every criteria it puts there. Because I can just as well do that job without the training you put there. Are you getting me? Do we have those arguments in the legal profession? So the weakening of the power of the courts through, for example, the extension of the power of military courts into civilian matters, and our failure to rise to the occasion of the proper needs of the generation of the age we live in, threatens to render the whole profession impotent, as ultimately all law depends on courts. We don't take serious cases to court. We don't make serious arguments in court. We don't call out the court seriously enough. As a result, the courts have decayed, they are decaying, and they are on a decadent trajectory. Hence our motto, ban the table. We still need our table, but we need it back on track. We need those sitting on it to get back on track. Other questions regarding the locus and basis of teaching, that is whether we go the neoliberal or libertarian way, also need to be examined. For example, Mr. Tony, Mr. Kawaz, they are two good lawyers. One time I wish to see both of you fight. Yeah, Tony, my compatriot and former neighbor, practices labor law. So you understand this problem. Is labor law an aspect of human rights, or is it an aspect of commercial law? You don't have to give the answer. It's a puzzle. It is such a puzzle that on the 15th of November 2023, just last year, the apex court in dealing with labor courts, your court of appeal, in the case of Stanbic Bank versus Safina Nasang, said, yeah, what's labor law for? Yeah. That's what they say. So the industrial court is dead. It's dead. It was closed on the 15th of November 2023 in a decision which commercial lawyers celebrated. Go to Mark's website and you will see them saying, I'm the guy who did that song. Do you know what Nasanga says? You can be hired and fired without a reason. Yeah. You can be sacked at will now. Think about it. The whole essence of labor law, as we discussed from the beginning, is that English law got offended by its own duplicity and returned natural law to save it. And it called it labor law as if it was new. It's just Ubuntu. And you have an African court using English language, doing Ubuntu at the workplace, and returning home, and expecting no accountability. We are the only ones, Sheila and I, and Isabella, only our farmers have taken that case to the East African Court of Justice. What's the case number there? Will you tell us? Huh? Are you getting me? So you can imagine, many people continue to take people to the industrial court, even the knowledge that the industrial court has been closed. And the industrial court has been closed not just by that decision. Parliament decided, lawmaking, which is what I'm going to to say, you know, the model of saying 2 judges to sit with 5, you know, panelists, they call them, to hear all cases from Uganda, is just not working. There is a beeline for, like labor cases, don't get solved in time. So Parliament amended the law to create, to say that the industrial court shall have 5 judges who shall each sit alone with fewer panelists. That was 5 years ago now? 5 years ago.